On Thanksgiving morning,
Right before the blessing, my daughter-in-law slid a cream-colored card across the table. Her voice was honeyed, too smooth to be sincere. "This one's for you, Helen." The entire family paused. I opened it. 5 words leapt from the page and hit me like a slap. "Thank you for your service." It wasn't a joke. It was a to-do list. Clean the entire house. Organize every closet. Finish by December 5th. Don't forget the baseboards. They were heading off to Aruba. Even the nanny was going. I was the only one staying behind, and they expected me to scrub toilets. I looked up and smiled. Calm. Steady. Not angry. Not yet. But inside, something cold and sharp woke up. They thought they knew who I was. They had no idea what was coming next. My name is Helen Whitaker. I'm 65 years old, widowed. I've lived in the same house in Asheville, North Carolina, for over 4 decades. I raised my son, Daniel Danny. We call him by myself after his father died when he was 8. I worked 2 jobs, paid off the mortgage, and built a home filled with love. Then Bree married my son, and over 12 years, she chipped away at everything I built. At first with compliments, then with corrections, eventually with control. But I let it happen. I thought I was being a good mother, a good mother-in-law, a good grandmother. I thought sacrificing my comfort for their happiness was love. I was wrong. Very, very wrong. If you've ever been underestimated, ignored, treated like furniture in your own home, this story is for you. Before we dive in, please like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Because after what Bree did to me, I didn't just clean baseboards. I cleaned house. Let me tell you what really happened. Thanksgiving is supposed to be a time for gratitude, for family, for warmth. That morning, I woke up early, just like I always do. The coffee was brewing before the sun came up. I put on the same soft blue dress I wear every year, the one Danny always says reminds him of childhood dinners. I made the cranberry sauce from scratch, roasted the sweet potatoes with cinnamon and brown sugar, the way he likes it. The kitchen smelled like memory, like home. I thought, just maybe, this year would be different. Then Bree showed up at 7 a.m., hair pulled tight in a ballerina bun, dressed in an ivory sweater that probably cost more than my grocery bill for the month. She was already rearranging the table before I'd even basted the turkey. "Don't worry about the dining room, Helen," she said, voice all sugar and teeth. "I'll take care of it." She never sets the table. In 12 years of marriage, I've never once seen her lift a finger for a holiday. But that morning, she was meticulous, lining up silverware like it was a showroom. She even polished the wine glasses. Something wasn't right. I stayed in the kitchen. That's always been my place. When you've spent your whole life serving others, you learn to keep your head down, stay in your lane, and find peace in the little things. I stirred the gravy, checked the oven, focused on the food. The first to arrive were the kids Sophie and Ethan. My heart always softens when I see them. Sophie ran to me with arms wide open, and Ethan was babbling about something he saw on TV. They don't care about power struggles or designer sweaters. They just want love and pancakes. Then came Bree's parents, followed by Danny's Uncle Roy and his wife. The house filled up with the usual holiday chaos: laughter, coats on the banister, someone yelling about pie. It was loud, familiar, almost comforting, until it wasn't. We gathered at the dining table, my table, the one I bought with my first Christmas bonus 20 years ago. Danny sat at the head, like always, trying to look relaxed, but clearly wound tight. Bree was glued to his side, performing perfection for the room. Her laugh was just a little too loud. her smile a little too fixed. I took my usual seat closest to the kitchen, like a servant on standby. Just as we were about to say grace, Bree stood up. "Before we eat," she said, voice ringing like a bell, "Danny and I have a surprise." She reached under her chair and pulled out a thick envelope. It matched her sweater. Of course it did. "Family trip," she announced, waving the card like a game show host. 10 days in Aruba. "We leave tomorrow morning." Everyone clapped. Sophie squealed. Ethan asked if there would be dolphins. Bree's parents beamed with pride. Danny just smiled politely. But Bree wasn't finished. She reached into the envelope again and pulled out a second card. Smaller. Thinner. She slid it across the table toward me like it was a dinner mint. "And this one's for you, Helen." My fingers shook as I picked it up. "House sitting duties. Deep clean, all rooms. Organize closets. Tend the plants. Finish by December 5th. Thank you for your service." I stared at the words until they blurred. No one spoke. No one blinked. Even Danny said nothing. "Someone needs to take care of the house," Bree chirped. "You don't mind, do you? You're always here anyway." She smiled at me like she was doing me a favor. It was like the air got sucked out of the room. I managed a smile. "That's what women like me are trained to do. Smile through it. Swallow the insult. Pretend it's fine," I said. "Of course, I'll take care of everything." But inside, something broke, and something else woke up. The insult was just the beginning. While they packed for paradise, I stared at that card like it was a war declaration. And the worst part wasn't what they expected me to do. It was what they had already done without me even knowing. After dinner, the house emptied out quickly. Bree's parents left first, full of wine and compliments. Roy and his wife followed, patting my shoulder like I'd hosted the whole evening, which I had, though no one said it out loud. Bree disappeared upstairs to start packing. Danny took the kids to finish their dessert in front of the TV. I stayed behind, clearing plates in silence. The "thank you for your service" card, burning in my apron pocket like a branding iron. I rinsed dishes in the sink while voices floated down from the hallway above Bree giving orders. Danny asking if we were bringing too much. And just like that, I was invisible again. The next morning, they were up before dawn. I stood at the window, Roby wrapped tight, watching from behind the curtain as Danny loaded their bags into the SUV. Bree stood on the sidewalk in a full travel outfit blazer. Heels, sunglasses, all before sunrise. She had a checklist on her phone. She wasn't lifting anything, just pointing. Even the babysitter, Sarah, was coming along. She climbed into the front passenger seat, the spot I used to sit in during family road trips. Bree knocked on my door before they left. Didn't wait for me to say, "Come in." She just walked in, scanned my room like it offended her. "You remember the list I gave you?" "Right," she said, tapping her phone. I nodded from the bed. She kept going. "The baseboards in the living room are dusty. The master bathroom grout needs bleaching. And the guest closet, don't even get me started. Just try to make yourself useful." Then she looked around my room. At the faded quilt I'd sewn years ago. The stack of library books. The old rocking chair in the corner. And for a moment, her face twisted, like I was something she was ashamed of. Then she was gone, and I was alone. For a few hours, I wandered the house like a stranger. Every room screamed her name. Cold gray furniture. Abstract art on the walls. No photos. No warmth. Just expensive things arranged for Instagram. But it was the master bedroom that hit the hardest. When Danny was little, this room was my sanctuary. It held a life I'd built with love. The bed where we read stories. The dresser with framed photos of our wedding. Birthdays. Summers at the lake. The rocking chair where I nursed him through chicken pox. It was all gone. Bree had replaced everything. Stark furniture. Chrome and glass. A silk comforter that looked like it belonged in a catalog. Not a home. I sat on the edge of the bed, trying to breathe. Then I saw the stack of mail. It wasn't snooping. Not really. It was sitting out in the open on Bree's nightstand, right next to her jewelry box, overflowing with tangled pearls and gold, like she had more than she knew what to do with. One envelope caught my eye. A mortgage statement. That didn't make sense. This house had been paid off 15 years ago. I used the last of my husband's life insurance to clear the debt. I wanted Danny to inherit a home, not a burden. But this statement had his name on it. My hands shook as I read. Danny had been sending monthly payments to a bank account under Bree's name. Not the bank, not the mortgage company. She'd convinced him the house still had a loan. For 5 years, he'd been paying her, and she let him. Lied to him. Watched him drain himself working late nights to cover a mortgage that didn't even exist. I nearly dropped the paper. That was the moment the shame shifted. For years, I'd told myself keeping quiet was noble. That being small kept the peace. That my silence was love. But now I saw it clearly. It wasn't peace. It was erasure. That afternoon, the house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional groan of old floorboards. I walked from room to room, not cleaning, just observing, like I was studying a crime scene. I passed by the hallway closet. Inside were boxes labeled Mom's stuff. Not Helen, not Grandma, just Mom's stuff, shoved into a corner like junk from an estate sale. Every corner of this house had been rewritten in her image. Even the kitchen, my kitchen, was filled with gadgets I never used and spices I didn't recognize. She had replaced function with aesthetics. Soulless, spotless, staged, and yet, in the corner by the pantry, still taped to the wall, was a wrinkled crayon drawing Ethan made 2 years ago. A stick figure family. He'd drawn me in the middle, holding his hand. That drawing, she hadn't touched it. She probably forgot it was even there. It was the only thing in the whole house that still felt like mine. I stood there for a long time. Then I walked to my room, pulled out the deed from the filing cabinet I'd hidden away years ago. My name. Clear as day. Helen Mae Whitaker. Sole owner. I wasn't a guest in this house. I wasn't the maid. I was the owner. She told me to scrub the baseboards. Instead, I lit a fire. Not metaphorical. Real. Because when someone tries to erase you from your own life, the first thing you do is burn their script. I sat at the kitchen table that night with a cup of tea I didn't even finish. The thank you for your service card lay next to me, mocking me in that elegant gold script. I stared at it like it was a dare. 43 years in this house. 43 years of holidays and homework. Chicken soup and Christmas lights. And this was my reward. A chore list. I'd let them take over everything. The living room. The master bedroom. The finances. Even my title. I wasn't Mom anymore. I wasn't Grandma Helen. I was her, as in, she'll handle it. I picked up Bree's laminated cleaning list. 3 pages long. Color-coded. She even noted which brand of cleaner to use for which tile. She'd written, "Please reorganize the spice rack alphabetically." I smiled. Not because I found it funny, but because something inside me had finally snapped into place. I folded the list neatly in thirds, walked into the living room, and dropped it into the fireplace. The flames caught fast, curling the edges until her perfect handwriting turned to ash. It felt clean. That was when the idea formed. I wasn't going to scream, or throw things, or post cryptic quotes online like Bree loved to do. No. That's her language, performance, and drama. I was going to speak in action. Quiet. Irreversible action. The first thing I did Monday morning was call Jim Atwood, our old family lawyer. He'd handled my husband's will, Danny's business paperwork, even helped me draft the trust for the grandkids' college funds. His assistant picked up and patched me through right away. "Jim," I said, "I need to ask you something." "Of course." "Helen," he said warmly, "what's going on? If I wanted to change the locks on my house, legally speaking, what would I need to do?" He paused. "Well, is the deed still in your name?" "It is." "Then you don't need to do anything but call a locksmith. You own the property outright. You have every right. No notice. No approval. None." "But Helen, is everything okay?" I looked around the kitchen. At the empty fridge, the countertops she'd said were outdated. The drawer where she'd hidden my measuring spoons because they didn't match the aesthetic. "Everything's about to be," I said. After we hung up, I put on real clothes. Not the robe I'd been wearing like armor, but jeans and a soft flannel shirt. I brushed my hair, put on a little lipstick. Not for them, for me. Then I headed to town. First stop, Dobbins Hardware. Frank Dobbins has run the place for 50 years. He looked up from the register with a wide grin. "Well, I'll be Helen Whitaker. Haven't seen you in a while." "Been laying low," I said, "but I need new locks. Front, back, and the kitchen door." He didn't ask why. "Something strong," he offered. "Pick resistant. Deadbolt." "Exactly." He pulled a display case off the wall. "This one comes with 5 keys." "Perfect." 5 keys. And for the first time in years, I realized I knew exactly who deserved one. Second stop, Caroline's Resale and Vintage. Caroline and I went to high school together. After her divorce, she opened this little shop and built it from nothing. When I walked in, she raised both brows. "Girl, you look like you just made a decision." I laughed. "You could say that." I pulled out my phone and showed her photos. Raya's sleek gray sectional, her chrome bar stools, the dining set no one ever used because it was too formal, the pristine guest room suite, never touched. I want to sell it. All of it. Caroline whistled low. "That's some high-end stuff." "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure." She nodded. "I can have my guys pick it up tomorrow." "Great. I'll start tagging what's leaving." Before heading home, I made one last stop. The furniture store on 8th and Main. Not the fancy one Bree liked. The local one. Real wood. Real comfort. Real people. I walked through the aisles like I was breathing for the first time. I chose a soft navy blue sofa you could sink into. A warm wooden dining table. Scuffed just enough to feel human. A bedroom set that didn't look like it belonged in a hotel. And a big cozy chair for reading by the window. I scheduled delivery for Wednesday. As I left the store, the air felt different. Clearer somehow. Because this time, I wasn't just reclaiming furniture. I was reclaiming space, identity, voice. The next morning, I made coffee with the good beans I'd always wanted to buy, but never did because Bree insisted they were a waste. I added real cream, sat at my kitchen table, and waited for the new locks to be installed. By noon, the house was mine again. Literally. And finally, the furniture. Gone. The art. Replaced. The walls, covered in old photos she tried to hide. And by the time they came home, let's just say, their keys didn't work anymore. And neither did their illusion of control. By Wednesday morning, the house felt like it was exhaling. Caroline's crew came first. They moved fast. Professional, but curious. I could tell they were dying to ask why I was selling a house full of barely used luxury furniture. But they didn't. I liked that. Out went the cold gray sectional Bree bought without asking. Out went the glass dining table no one ever touched. Out went the chrome bar stools she said made the kitchen look sleeker. When the truck rolled away, the house felt empty, but not hollow. Cleared. 2 hours later, the new pieces arrived. I watched from the front porch as they unloaded a sturdy oak dining table. Mismatched chairs with character. A wide blue sofa that practically invited you to nap. And a cozy armchair I'd already picked a spot for by the front window, where the morning light hit just right. I didn't just rearrange the furniture. I recentered the house. Bree had built a showroom. I was rebuilding a home. The kitchen was next. I pulled everything off the counters, boxed up the gadgets I never used, and gave the space back its function. I filled the spice rack the way it used to be, no alphabetical order. Just muscle memory and instinct. Rosemary in the front. Garlic salt near the stove. Then I opened the closet in the hall labeled Mom's Stuff. I pulled out my old photo albums. My wedding portrait. Danny's preschool drawings. Pictures of Ethan's first Christmas. Sophie with chocolate on her face, laughing so hard she was blurry. I hung them back up right in the living room. The space came alive. By Thursday, even the neighbors noticed. Nancy Morales from next door stopped by with a casserole and a question she didn't quite say out loud. I saw the trucks, she said gently. Spring cleaning in November. I smiled. Something like that. She looked past me into the house. Her eyes softened. Looks more like you now. Exactly. That evening, I curled up in my new armchair with a mystery novel and a fresh cup of coffee. For the first time in a very long time, I felt still. Not in a frozen kind of way, but the good kind. Like when a storm finally passes and the silence feels earned. Then my phone buzzed. It was a photo. On a beach. Margarita in hand. Kids in the background building a sandcastle. Wish you were here. I didn't respond. Didn't need to. Sunday morning came fast. I was up early. Made pancakes, just for me. Real maple syrup. Blueberries. The kind I used to make for Danny before school. I was finishing my second cup of coffee when I heard it. The SUV. Doors slamming. Bags thudding on the walkway. Metal scraping. Key in the lock. Again. And again. From my seat at the kitchen table, I could see them through the front window. Bree's mouth was already twisted with confusion. Danny jiggled the handle harder. Try yours, she snapped. He did. Nothing. It's like the lock's been changed. No! That's impossible. More rattling. A pause. Then footsteps on the porch. Knock. Knock! Mom. Danny's voice. Mom. Are you in there? The keys aren't working. I took a long, slow sip of coffee. Then I folded the newspaper and stood up. I opened the kitchen door just wide enough for them to see me clearly. Hi, I said calmly. Welcome back. How was the trip? Danny's face softened. Relief. Confusion. Good. I mean, yeah. Good. Something's wrong with the locks. I smiled. No. They're just new. Bree shouldered past him, trying to look into the house. What happened to the furniture? She demanded. Where's my dining set? Sold it, I said, stepping forward. Didn't suit me. Her jaw dropped. You sold my furniture. It wasn't yours. It was in my house, which means it was mine. Her face flushed from pale to red in seconds. You can't do that. That was expensive. I nodded. And now someone else is enjoying it. Hope they like gray. Sophie tugged at her mom's arm. Grandma? Can I come in? I really have to pee. I smiled at her. Of course. Sweetheart, you know where the bathroom is. Sophie ran inside. Ethan tried to follow, but Bree blocked him. No, she snapped. We're all going in together. I looked at her, steady and calm. Actually, you're not. This is my house. No, I said. It isn't. Danny stepped forward. Mom, what's going on? I walked over to the counter and picked up the deed, held it up like a playing card. This house was paid off 15 years ago. Your dad left it to me. I never transferred the deed. So when Bree told you were making mortgage payments, I looked at Bree. You weren't? Danny blinked. But I've been sending money every month. To her. I finished. The silence was heavy. Bree looked like she might be sick. You don't understand. She tried. I do, I said. I understand perfectly. You've been stealing from your husband while treating me like your personal maid. Danny turned to her. His voice cracked. Is that true? She hesitated, then made the mistake of speaking. I was protecting our interests. She doesn't need this house. She's old. We have children. We deserve. She stopped. But it was too late. Danny stared at her like he didn't recognize her. You deserve what? To steal. To humiliate my mother. And just like that, the illusion shattered. Her posture collapsed. Her voice cracked. Her composure evaporated. This is your fault, she hissed at me. You turned him against me. You're a bitter old woman who can't stand to see other people happy. I met her eyes. I didn't turn him against you. You did that all by yourself. And then, like a bad soap opera, she fainted. Right there on the porch. Danny didn't even move to catch her. He just stared at me. Then whispered, Mom, I'm so sorry. I gave a small nod. I wasn't ready for forgiveness, but I was ready for respect. You can be sorry later, I said. Right now, you need to figure out where you're going to stay. The truth is out, but that doesn't mean it's over. Because apologies are easy. Change, that takes more. And some damage. Can't be swept up like broken glass. The paramedics arrived within 10 minutes. By then, Bree was awake again, hysterical, sweaty, and clutching Danny's arm like a lifeline. She kept insisting I'd poisoned her, that I'd been planning this revenge for months. One of the paramedics, an older woman with kind eyes, gently placed a cool cloth on Bree's forehead and said what we were all thinking. Sounds like a stress reaction. Vacation hangover's real. Hun? Sometimes coming back to reality hits harder than expected. Danny didn't argue. He just stood there, silent, watching his wife unravel. I stayed back on the porch, arms folded, eyes steady. Sophie and Ethan sat on the steps near me. Ethan leaned his head on my arm like he used to when he was a toddler. Sophie looked up at me with wide, worried eyes. Grandma, she whispered. Are we not living here anymore? I crouched down so we were eye level. Sweetheart, your house arrangements are going to change. But one thing will never change. I love you. No matter where you live. She nodded slowly and wrapped her arms around my neck. I held her tight, longer than usual, because she needed it, and so did I. The ambulance pulled away with Bree still rambling about lawyers and betrayal. Danny didn't follow her. He sat on the porch steps, elbows on knees, staring at nothing. Where are you going to stay tonight? I asked. He blinked like he hadn't thought that far ahead. I don't know, he said. Maybe a hotel. Bree froze our savings. I just found out yesterday. We have a credit card in her name, but I have no idea what's left. He looked up at me. Mom, the kids, they can visit, I said. Anytime. But you and Bree, You're going to have to figure out a new plan. He didn't argue, just nodded. 3 days passed. 3 days of quiet, of stillness, of fresh coffee in the morning and novels in the afternoon. I watered my plants, replanted basil near the kitchen window, hung laundry in the sun. I did what I wanted, when I wanted, in a house that finally felt like mine. On Wednesday evening, Danny came back, alone. He knocked just once and waited. I opened the door. He looked like he hadn't slept. The man in front of me was older, heavier, hollowed out. His shoulders were rounded in a way they hadn't been before. "Can I come in?" he asked softly. I stepped aside. He walked in like a guest, pausing as he saw the photos on the wall, the ones Bree had packed away. His childhood, his father, me, younger, smiling wide at the camera. He swallowed hard. "It looks like home again," he said. I gestured to the armchair by the window. "Sit. I'll make coffee." I brought him his cup the way I always used to, 2 sugars. Splash of cream. When I set it down, he stared at it like it meant something more. Maybe it did. We sat in silence for a few beats. Then he spoke. "She's threatening to take the kids," he said. "Says she'll tell the court you're unstable, that you manipulated me, that this was all some long con to turn them against her. She actually believes that. She believes what benefits her." I nodded slowly. What are you going to do?" "I'm filing for divorce," he said quietly. "Already met with an attorney. I'm fighting for full custody. I'll give her supervised visitation, but I won't let her use the kids as weapons." He looked down at his coffee. "Mom, I need to say something. And I don't expect forgiveness overnight. But I need you to hear it." I waited. I let her treat you like an afterthought, like a burden. For years, I told myself it was easier not to fight, that keeping the peace mattered more than speaking up. But the truth is, I failed you. I let the woman who claimed to love me tear down the woman who actually raised me. His voice cracked, but he didn't stop. "I believed her when she said you were overstepping. I believed her when she said your memory was slipping. I even believed her when she said you were holding me back." He looked up at me, eyes glassy. "But you were never the problem. I was just too weak to see it." I didn't cry. Instead, I nodded, slowly. "Once. You're not the boy I raised," I said. "But maybe you are becoming the man I hoped he'd grow into." We sat for a while longer, not talking, just sharing space. Carefully, he asked, "Can we start again?" I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either. Healing isn't a moment. It's 100 quiet choices. The castle fell, but something better rose in its place. A new rhythm, a new definition of family, and a new queen at the head of the table. It's been 6 months since that day on the porch. A lot has changed, and honestly, not much at all. The house is still the same one I moved into in 1982, but it finally feels like mine again. Not just in name, in energy, in peace. You can walk in now and smell coffee, not tension. Hear laughter, not quiet judgment. The photos are still on the wall. I've added new ones. To Ethan, losing his first tooth. Sophie, learning to ride her bike. Danny smiling with a calm I haven't seen since he was 16. Bree never came back. She moved to Florida to find herself. Last I heard, she's working part-time at a boutique and posting wellness quotes on Instagram. I don't hate her. I don't wish her harm. But I don't miss her either. Danny and the kids live 10 minutes away now, in a modest rental with mismatched furniture and cereal bowls that don't stack right. And they're happier than they ever were in this house, filled with stage perfection. He comes over every Sunday with the kids. They help me cook. They set the table. We laugh. We fight over board games, We spill things. It's messy. And it's real. Danny still apologizes sometimes. But I told him he doesn't have to anymore. I just ask him to be better moving forward, and so far, he is. And May. I joined a book club. Replanted the backyard garden. Learned how to make sourdough. Still working on getting it right. I even started volunteering at the library on Wednesdays. Helping kids with their reading. The funny thing is, I'm not angry anymore. For years, I thought rage was the only tool I had left. But what I really needed wasn't revenge. It was space. To breathe. To reset. To remember who I am without anyone's label stuck to my back. For anyone listening right now, maybe you felt like that. Like your life got slowly rewritten by other people's expectations. Like you became invisible in the home you built. Like speaking up felt dangerous, so you stayed quiet. I'm here to tell you something important. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to say, no more. You are allowed to change the locks on anything or anyone that's trying to shrink you. You are not selfish. You are awake. Sophie asked if we could host Thanksgiving at my house again this year. I like it better here, she said. It feels warm. I smiled and nodded, and when I tucked her in that night, she whispered something that stayed with me. Grandma, you're the boss now. I kissed her forehead and whispered back. No, honey. I always was. This wasn't a story about revenge. It was about remembrance, of love, of value, of identity, of dignity. The people around you may forget who you are. They may reframe your story to suit their comfort, but you get to decide when it's time to reclaim the pen. And sometimes, the most radical thing you can do is come home to yourself.